If you're anything like me, you probably either don't like or really don't care about football. When you think about it, the first thing that comes to your mind might be overpriced and overly taxpayer-subsidized stadiums, domestic abuse scandals, those scandals resulting in basically a slap on the wrist, or a league with basically no genuine commitment to player safety. You may think of obnoxious fans or terrible officiating. You may just think football is kind of dumb and boring. I did for a while. And all of those are at least a little bit true. But hear me out. Here's why you should give it a shot anyway. We'll start with a bit of a story. The year is 2018, December 9th, the 14th week of the NFL regular season, which, if you don't know, runs for 17 weeks. The Miami Dolphins are matched up against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. The Dolphins are somehow sitting at 6 wins and 6 losses, but they're really not that good of a team and are pretty lucky to be sitting at a 50-50 win-loss ratio. While they might technically still have some small chance of making the playoffs, they and everyone else know it isn't happening. They'll finish the year with 7 wins and 9 losses. The Patriots have 9 wins, are more or less assured of their usual playoff spot by then, and they'd go on to win the Super Bowl that year. So they're a pretty good team. When these two teams played earlier in the year, the Patriots eviscerated the Dolphins 38-7. Which is about as bad a beating as you see in football outside of absurd circumstances. This game doesn't matter. Won't matter in the grand scheme of things. The Dolphins are just trying not to let themselves get humiliated at home by a much better team, and the Patriots just want the regular season to be over with already so they can get back to their regularly scheduled championship game and customary victory lap. Cut to the final moments of the fourth quarter, and they've done a pretty good job of it. The game's close. They're less than a score behind. For the uninitiated, a touchdown in football is worth 6 points. And good news, they've just gotten the ball back. The bad news is that they've got almost the whole field to cross, no timeouts, and there's... how much time on the clock? 7 seconds? Ah, crap. Essentially, they've got one long shot play to try and put themselves ahead. What you'd normally see at this point is for their quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, to drop back and chuck it as deep as he can, and hope his receiver comes down with it in the end zone. Not really likely to work even in the best of circumstances, much less with the Patriots expecting it, but you take the shot, and hey, if it doesn't work, at least you kept it alive until the end. Good game, well played, so on. That's not what happens. This happens.
10 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it, and this will end it after the shovel, or will it? Miami running around, circling. Oh, look out! Gronkowski didn't have the angle. Touchdown! Oh, Kenyon Drake! A miracle!
This kind of play almost never works out. It's rare to see teams even try it, given the risk of losing the ball is large enough that the only time it becomes worthwhile is when the game's over anyway. And when they do try, it usually ends up looking a lot more like this. So, the mediocre at best Miami Dolphins come up with a 1 in a million play with 2 desperation laterals to keep the game alive, and Kenyon Drake making the future Super Bowl champion defense look like they're running through molasses. And for what? Pride? To spite a division rival, so the fans in the seats that day can go home a little happier? This game did not matter. Could not have mattered. But try telling that to anyone playing or watching that day, because it's goddamn football. Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Jerry Rice, Peyton Manning, Barry Sanders. All of these are names you've got at least a decent chance of recognizing, even if you don't follow football. They had long, storied careers filled with record-setting seasons, the chance at big contracts, and plenty of time in the limelight. Most players don't get that kind of recognition, which is fair enough. Most players aren't in the same ballpark as these guys as far as talent goes. Does that expression work in football? I'm just gonna assume it does. The average length of an NFL career varies a bit depending on how recently you look, what position you're looking at, and a few other factors, but in general, players spend about 3.5 years on an active roster. They get drafted, if they're lucky get a shot at meaningful playing time, do their bit for the team, and after the rookie deal is up, maybe sign a short-term contract to fill out a needy team's depth. Seasons get ended by injuries on a regular basis, and a lot of players don't have the name or the clout to have teams wait around for them to heal up and hope they come back at full strength. One bad play and they could easily be out of a job. There's about 1,700 players in the NFL at any given time. 1,700 people, and every single one of them has spent most of their life on football. Just getting into the NFL meant they had to become one of the best on the planet. That's 1,700 players wrecking their bodies, often even in college before they even have a shot at a real paycheck, getting chewed up by a system that'll forget about them as soon as they're gone, with a whole host of new blood each draft waiting to take their roster spot the instant they lose a step or aren't useful anymore. And even players that manage a successful and lasting career personally often see it squandered playing for a team with little hope of success. Matt Stafford has tried so hard to carry the Lions that it may have both metaphorically and physically crushed his back beyond all repair. Case in point, let's talk a bit about a pair of players. They've got a couple things in common. Both are running backs and both went undrafted. Now, for those not aware, running back is seen as a pretty replaceable position in the NFL. Not without reason. A lot of running backs are capable of filling the same role, teams only really need one of them on the field at a given time, a significant part of their success or failure is dependent on the offensive line and the rest of the team around them, and rookies tend to learn the position pretty quickly. So outside of the big-name RBs, teams tend to run them into the ground on cheap contracts and then move on, with turnover being pretty high year to year. First up, Damien Williams. Williams entered the NFL in 2014 as an undrafted free agent and got picked up by the Miami Dolphins. Yes, we're still talking about them. I promise I'm not doing this on purpose. He didn't do a whole lot for them over the next few years. He never had a season with much more than 100 rushing yards, along with similar receiving numbers. For comparison, note here that 1,000 yards tends to be a pretty good benchmark for a strong full season of play for a player getting regular time on the field. He got his first real shot in 2017 when the team's starting running back, Jay Ajayi, was traded to the Eagles mid-season, and Williams began splitting work with Kenyon Drake. This lasted a couple weeks, and he played okay for himself, but it was short-lived as Williams got hurt in Week 12 and missed the rest of the season. So his shot at a starting role didn't amount to too much. The Dolphins let him walk in the offseason, but he did impress someone enough in his limited playing time that he got signed on by the Kansas City Chiefs to be the backup to RB Kareem Hunt. Enter Williams' second chance. See, Hunt, who himself got the starting role when his teammate Spencer Ware tore an ACL in preseason the year earlier, was involved in a public scandal involving, well, this. This came out in the middle of the 2018 season. Hunt got suspended and cut from the team, and suddenly there's an opening for someone to step up. Damien Williams did just that, and has since been great for the Chiefs. The second player we're going to talk about, trust me, there's a point to this, is Raheem Mostert. Mostert was a kick return specialist out of college, and from 2015 on got passed around between teams either as a piece of their special teams unit or a member of the practice squad. Between the 2015 offseason and the end of the 2016 season, he was at one point a member of the Eagles, Dolphins, I swear I'm not deliberately trying to pad this video with Dolphins, it just keeps happening, Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns, New York Jets for about a week, Chicago Bears, Toronto Raptors, Manchester United, Tokyo Giants, and the French Olympics team. I may have made a few of those up. I mean, come on, the Jets can't be that picky about who they keep on their roster, but you get the point. He flat out could not find a real home in the NFL. Finally, he ended up on the 49ers, and still didn't do a whole lot. Mostly still just special teams. It took until midway through 2018 for Mostert to really get a chance to play. See, the 49ers had signed Jerick McKinnon to a big contract, only for him to tear an ACL in the preseason and miss the whole year. And the other running back ahead of him on the depth chart, Matt Breida, also had some trouble staying healthy from game to game. It only lasted a couple weeks because apparently the 49ers really got on the nerves of some voodoo witch or other, and Mostert himself was put on injured reserve after a broken arm in Week 9. But the couple games he got going in gave him the opportunity to show that he's a capable runner whose speed makes him really effective in the team system. Things were back to looking pretty bleak come the start of the 2019 season. McKinnon still wasn't back to playing condition, but Breida was still there, and the 49ers just brought in Tevin Coleman as a lead back. And Mostert was once again buried at the back of the depth chart. I swear the 49ers actually have to be cursed, because Coleman got hurt early in the season and didn't really look the same when he came back. That gave Mostert the chance to work his way into regular playing time, and he played well enough to earn what amounts to a starting role in effect, if not a name. It worked out pretty well for the 49ers too. Mostert rushed for the second most yards in NFL playoff history in the last game he's played as of this recording. There's one more similarity I didn't mention, although if you follow football you probably figured it out already. Both these guys will be playing in the Super Bowl in a couple days. For both of them, it took the stars aligning to end up there. Multiple injuries to players in front of them, ending up on a team their skill set fits well, those teams succeeding, both of them avoiding any season-ending injuries, and countless other things that could have gone just a bit differently. Damian Williams got hurt this year too, and if his competition hadn't been a guy well past his prime and a rookie who can't pass protect yet, he very easily could have come back to find himself out of a job through no fault of his own. It wouldn't be the first time that happened to a Chiefs RB even in the past few years. This is their shot. They might not even be on a team in a year or two. That's not a criticism of them as players, that's just how the NFL is sometimes. They certainly can't count on playing in another championship during their careers, most players don't even get the one. So this is it, and I expect they'll play their hearts out because of it. The other point to this is that every single player on the field has some kind of story. Overcoming injuries, getting second chances, sometimes just fighting for a chance to play in the first place. And often those stories end up with disappointment, with getting hurt or replaced, or just never being able to do a whole lot. How many careers that could have been great got squandered by just a bit of bad luck? We'll never know for sure, that's kind of the nature of what ifs, but it's got to be more common than not. So when things go right, when we get to see players succeeding, it's worth celebrating even if we don't recognize all their names or how they got to wear their uniform. Let's talk about what it takes for a football team to win a Super Bowl. First, you have to make playoffs, so how do you do that? Well, the best way is to place first in your division of 4, and this can be fairly easy if you're the only consistently good team in the bunch, or tremendously difficult if you're stuck in a division loaded with contenders, and with maybe only one bottom feeder. Or you can be one of the 2 highest record non-division leaders in your half of the league to make it into the wildcard round. Now this might not sound all that bad, and you're right. More than a quarter of the NFL is going to make it into that final stretch with a shot at winning it all. But even if they do make it, that regular season is brutal, with a ton of ways things can go wrong. Quarterback goes down in the first couple games, right off the season. Lose all of your wide receivers to injury, probably not going to get too far. Keep players lose heart and want to swap teams. Defense can't stay healthy. One coach figures out your team's Achilles heel. One too many games where the ball just happens to bounce the wrong way. Good teams either miss the playoffs or come in completely hamstrung all the time. Now your entire team is a year older, a little more worn down, and you've got nothing to show for it. And that's assuming a team is a good enough unit to safely win the majority of their games even before wheels start falling off. Then, assuming a team makes it into the playoffs, it's, well, playoffs. Single elimination, one game, one team advances and the other goes home. There's a phrase that gets tossed around for football, any given Sunday, meaning that most NFL teams are closely matched enough that with a bit of luck, cleverness, or maybe just heart, any given team can beat any other team just this once. Take, for example, the Baltimore Ravens this year. They dominated all year, crushed it so well that they were regularly in a position to rest their starting players for most of the final quarter each game. For reference, doing this means you're far enough ahead that an opponent has no practical chance of catching up even against backups. They won 14 games and only lost 2. Both of those losses coming pretty early in the year. Their point differential on the season was 249, meaning that over the course of the whole year they scored 249 more points than their opponents collectively managed against them. This is in a sport where games are typically decided by 7 or less each week. No other team cracked 200, and the closest to it, New England at 195, got absolutely clobbered by the Ravens when they went head-to-head in the middle of the year. In spite of that, the Ravens played only one playoff game this year, against an upstart Tennessee Titans team that had started out the year a little more than a joke. They had home field advantage, a couple weeks to rest up beforehand, and just didn't have a good game. They lost, bad, and that was it. The 249 point differential, all those wins, in the end all meaningless because of a team that by just about every metric was worse than them the whole year. And NFL playoffs are an exercise in watching the hopes and dreams of players and fans alike go up in smoke in a single glorious bonfire. So, whether your team misses playoffs by a game despite a good record or goes all the way to win it all, what happens next? Two things mainly, time and business. As a reminder, NFL careers run short for most positions. That 3 and a bit years figure from before includes a lot of guys who aren't regular starters, so the core of any given team is going to last a bit longer than that. Still, players have a bit more wear on them, they're older, they're maybe not as able to bounce back from an injury next time around. You know, basic human biology. Yes, some teams cheat and have a star quarterback who is either a vampire or a long-lost son of Zeus or something, but most of them have to worry about the ever-encroaching force of mortality. Beyond that, every team has a salary cap, a limit to the total amount they're allowed to pay their players. This means that as breakout rookie stars finish out their first few years and are no longer bound by their comparatively cheap for the team rookie contracts, they often move on to a team more willing and able to give them a big paycheck. It only takes a couple pieces leaving to tear down a championship team, or at least bring them back down to everyone else's level. The LA Rams went 13-3 and made it to the Super Bowl as a near unstoppable juggernaut last season. They blew that chance. And this year? 9-7 and missed the playoffs despite not having all that much turnover in personnel. Still better than average team, but now the rest of their division has stepped up and it may be a long while before they get anywhere close to a chance of redemption for it. The 2015 season saw the Denver Broncos playing the Carolina Panthers in the big game. Both of those teams have only had one winning season since, despite the Panthers having been a 15-1 team and the Broncos ending up league champions. It swings the other way too. The 49ers only won 4 games last season, and now they're in the Super Bowl. Some teams are able to make the playoffs most years despite turnover and aging stars, and a few others just can't seem to figure out how to string together a winning season, but for the most part streaks are short-lived and the future is blurry at best. No team knows what shape they'll be in next year, so any chance to make something of this one is all the more important. So hopefully all this rambling has convinced you that even if you're not particularly interested in sports, there's some good drama in football now and then. Teams and players with uncertain futures trying to do everything they can now while they're able, with the possibility that it all falls apart at any moment. If I haven't managed that, well, thanks for sticking around this long. And if I have, what then? I've got a couple of suggestions. The reason I'm making this video now is because the Super Bowl is coming up in a few days, Sunday, February 2nd, 2020. There's no guarantee it ends up being a good game. Last year's Super Bowl was pretty dull to watch as it happened, but odds are it should be a bit more action-packed than that one was. Give it a watch, try to give football a second opinion. If you're completely out of the loop, maybe go watch some highlight videos from the Chiefs and the 49ers from this year first, just so you'll recognize a few of the players going into it. I find having a few points of familiarity helps. If you've stumbled on this video after that date, well, that highlight reel idea is still there. And just tuck all this into the back of your mind. Try to take the time to catch an early season game when they roll back around come September. If you catch the game, or any game, and want to keep following it, there's 3 other things you might want to try to make next season more enjoyable to watch. First is picking a team, or multiple, to root for. Doesn't matter if it's because you live near them, you've got family or friends that like them, you like something about their uniforms, or you just picked at random. The important thing is to have an anchor, something to care about during the season. You might also pick out different players you like from different teams. I'm not a Seahawks fan, but I generally like watching Russell Wilson just because he tends to pull miracles out of nothing. I think Mark Ingram's an excellent running back that doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. I like DeAndre Hopkins because he once caught a football with his groin. I like watching Ryan Tannehill because we can finally see what he can do now that he's free of the Dolphins, and so on. Finally, and this is the thing that brought me back around in the first place, maybe give fantasy football a try. Having a personal stake in the games can make them a lot more tense, and also means having a free reason to root for a lot of different players and teams. There's a lot of players I cheer for simply because I had them on my fantasy team at one point, and want to see them keep succeeding. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Thanks for watching, and if you like this, maybe consider commenting and whatnot just to feed the algorithm so more people will see it. This has been just a random internet person, and may you all enjoy a Patriots-free Super Bowl.